Hey everybody, I thought I would do something I don't normally do and talk about a jazz haul, a record haul that I picked up. Of course, I've been into jazz for a long time, and I've been here lately, been kind of when I go out and buy records and look for records, I've been purposefully kind of picking out jazz albums, and specifically good stuff and stuff that I don't have most specifically. Of course, the way I look for records is I typically will go on a hunt. I look at records as sort of a treasure kind of hunt as opposed to I'm going into a store looking for a particular thing, for example. That's one of the reasons I like record fairs, I like thrift stores, I like antique malls. And today I had quite a good piece of luck at this one antique shop that I don't normally go to. Now they do have a couple of different record booths set up in there from different vendors. But I don't normally go in there because it's usually kind of filler stuff. You know what I'm talking about? It's kind of just the regular old stuff you see constantly all the time. Andre Kosterlansk, I can never pronounce his name correctly. Benny Goodman stuff. Kind of your classic filler Barbra Streisand, which, no offense to Barbra Streisand, but, anyway. But I went in there right when they first opened, and apparently the gentleman had come in yesterday. I was told this today, but he had come in yesterday and brought in a bunch of records, and I got quite the haul, so let's go through them. First off is Miles Davis, The Man with the Horn. Now, this is an original, what did this come out in, 82, 83, somewhere in there. It is an original pressing, and it's kind of his comeback album in a lot of ways. To be honest with you, I'm not hugely familiar, or let's say I haven't listened to a lot of Miles's 70s output and of course his 80s output. But this is, I listened to this, I streamed this, and it's a very, very good album. It's a pretty good condition-wise. It does have some noticeable scratches, but it does play fine. A little bit noisy, but does play pretty good. So there's that. And then we got Herbie Hancock's Future Shock, a very, very lovely album. This is actually, if you look it up, this is one of his most sampled albums of all time, of course, being jazz fusion, and this kind of having sort of a hip-hop vibe to it. And there were a few albums in and around Future Shock that kind of had Herbie kind of going into kind of the hip hop, the rap, the DJ type vibe of the 80s of that time frame. But this really is the culmination, kind of the peak, the mountain of that output in a lot of ways, and a great album. Sadio Watanabe's My Dear Life. And I have a few releases from Sadio Watanabe, but this is actually my favorite release of his, and I thought I had it, but I didn't. I actually keep a list on my phone every time I buy an album of any kind. I'll put it on there, artist and release, and kind of keep track of what I've got. But yeah, this is one of my favorite albums of his. It's a little bit more experimental than some of his other albums, I think, particularly when you got into the late 70s and into the 80s. He kind of became sort of this smooth jazz kind of vibe, in my opinion. But this sort of still retains kind of his experimental side, kind of his more bop side, if we want to say that, even though he was really never a bop artist. But this is a great album, fantastic album. Sonny Rollins, Blue Note Volume 1. This is actually not an original, although that would be pretty cool, because this thing, apart from some ring wear on the sleeve, the disc itself is actually in literally mint condition. And this is actually an 82 repressing from France. It's a French repressing that was done in 1982. But yeah, a very, very lovely album. Of course, if you love Blue Note, of course, if you love Sonny Rollins, this is a fantastic album. I'm always on the hunt for Dave Brubeck, and this is an album I didn't have. Of course, Dave Brubeck, particularly during the 70s, I want to say, I could be mistaken, but if my memory serves me right, his output in the 60s was kind of lower. Obviously, he was big in the 50s and that sort of thing, put out dozens and dozens of albums in the 50s. Every time you turn around in the 1950s, there was another Brubeck release. And then, of course, in the 60s, I want to say his output was a little lessened, but then when he came around in the 70s, it really kind of bumped up. And this, of course, is part of that. This is an Atlantic release. And this is an album I'm unfamiliar with, but I'm excited to check out for sure. And kind of the pride and joy of the whole pick is Sun Ra's and his orchestra, or excuse me, and his Myth Science Orchestra when Sun comes out. Now, this is a 2008 reissue. It came in a couple variations. You can tell it's the reissue because apparently on the original, you see right here, it says Intergalactic Series right here. Apparently on the original that wasn't present, and apparently on the original the inside of the sleeve wasn't white. So it definitely is the 2008 repressing, but effectively mint condition, and I'm always on the lookout for Sun Ra. Always, no matter if it's a repressing or not, I'm always on the lookout for Sun Ra because I love his work, I love his output, I love his funkiness and experimentalness that he kind of, portrayed in jazz, and kind of just his personality and kind of the whole space jazz stuff that he did. It's just wonderful. And then lastly, but not least, of course, is the Modern Jazz Sextet with Dizzy Gillespie, Sonny Stitt, obviously two of the big names, John Lewis, Percy Heath, Charlie Persep, and of course Skeeter Best. A couple of those guys I'm unfamiliar with, but obviously Dizzy Gillespie and obviously Sonny Stitt. This is a mono release on Verve. The jacket kind of has some water damage, but the record itself is actually, it needs to be cleaned. It's a little dusty, but it's effectively in mint condition, really, truly, for being how old it is. And so, yeah, definitely a haul, definitely a good pick for sure. And I was surprised. I paid about $50 for everything because technically the prices were a little bit more than that if you add it all up. But the booth was running like a 15% off discount. So yeah, it came out for about $50 for some great records, really, truly. So anyway, I thought I would share with you guys something I don't normally do in terms of this kind of thing, in terms of, when I get records, kind of sharing them with you guys. But it was such a nice pick today, nice finds. I thought I would just share them. So anyway, peace out. Stay tuned. I've got something coming in that I'm going to be doing a review on, kind of a comparison. Well, sort of just sharing my thoughts. So anyway, stay tuned for that.